Hello, hello. Happy Monday, friends. We are in the last full week of August. Next week, we are starting September, and Labor Day is this coming up weekend. So, let's talk about what's happening in the Des Moines and Central Iowa real estate market and what to expect. So, first and foremost, we have seen an increase in pendings, which is great. State fair is also over, and interest rates are staying pretty steady and potentially coming down. We still think, just based on last year, that we might see interest rates come down some more as we go later into the year, just like they did last year, except it may be a little bit later. So we'll see if that happens. The Federal Reserve is talking about potential rate cuts on the benchmark rate, which again does not directly tie to mortgages, as those are based on mortgage-backed securities trading. And yet there's usually speculation before or after that will affect interest rates either positively or negatively. So be on the lookout for that. If you're thinking about buying kind of on the edge, now is a good time to find the right place. And, because if rates were to come down, things will get busier. Overall, which last week I think I had mentioned that we were in an even market if you're looking at everything. So 4 months of inventory. We are back down to 3.9 months of inventory. So seller's market, we're kind of teetering on that. So let's talk about what that all means and what different areas of the market are in terms of whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. So of course, around 60 to 70% of our sales each year are from resale homes. So resale single family homes, we've got 3.2 months of inventory overall. So we're still a little bit less than a month away of having inventory that would put us in a balanced market. So 3.2 months means it would take 3.2 months if nothing new came on the market and everything that was on the market sold. It would take about 3.2 months. So that is in a seller's market. The townhome condo resale is also in a seller's market with 3.8 months of inventory. New construction, however, is in a balanced market, so they've got 6.3 months of inventory. So again, if nothing new came on the market, it would take 6.3 months for all of the new construction single-family homes to sell. And the year has been split really between an even market and a buyer's market. We haven't really seen a seller's market in new construction. And then condos and townhomes and new condos and townhomes, rather, I should say, is 10.2 months of inventory. So that's heavily into a buyer's market, and it's pretty much been in a buyer's market all year. We haven't seen that go into a seller's market or really even a balanced market. So homes on average are staying on the market about 25% longer than last year at the same time. So still our average stays on market is around 20, so in the ideal world, right, an average is just that, taking the average of everything. So if we cut out the ones that sat for really long and the ones that, went super quickly, we may have a different number. But 20-ish days on market, so that means theoretically within the first 3 weeks, we should be getting an offer and accepting an offer. Now, that's not always the case, but price and presentation go a long way. So if it's presented well, priced appropriately, and marketed well, it should move fairly quickly, especially in those lower price points. As you get up to the higher price point, it may take a little bit longer. Again, we're still really in a seller's market under $400,000 overall. And then above that fluctuates just based on the amount of inventory that is on the market. One of the things that we've noticed this year, especially lately, is we've had really a lot more listings, I would say, this year versus buyers, which typically we work more with buyers and are, 60% buyers, 40% listings. We definitely are much more listing heavy. And one of the things that we have been seeing, at least lately, is that we're having fewer showings, but those fewer showings are still leading to an offer. So while we might put something on the market and, a couple years ago, we might have had 10, 15 showings and we get multiple offers. We've had a couple where we've had 1 showing, 2 showing, maybe 4 showings, and we're getting an offer or maybe even 2 offers, but at least usually getting an offer that all parties are able to negotiate on and come to an agreement on. So that's good news for both buyers and sellers, that things are certainly selling and moving, just at a little bit slower pace. And there's nothing wrong with that. We really were spoiled the last, or I guess I should say sellers were spoiled the last couple of years leading up to 2023, 2024 with super quick movement and lots of activity. That being said, we'll likely see things tick up here a little bit as we go into the fall season after Labor Day is over. That tends to be another somewhat busy time if we're going to have another push in season of busyness, I guess. And then as we get closer to the holidays, things tend to taper off a little bit and stay slower through the early part of the year. A lot of that's weather dependent as well and rate dependent. There's a lot of factors, right? So this weekend, we saw 159 new homes come on the market. 122 homes went into pending or under contract status, and 92 homes sold and closed. If we look at the 7-day, though, we actually had 343 homes that went pending and 310 homes that came on the market. So we did have more pendings than new listings on the market. We haven't seen that a whole lot in the last couple of months. So that is, that's great for keeping our inventory pretty stable. I still think we'll add some inventory and maybe get to that 4,200, 4,300, maybe even 4,500 homes on the market before the end of the year. That just gives everybody a little bit more time. And then it's, as we've mentioned, really all year, as a seller, you really need to be looking at what your competition is and how you can stand out against them. And as a buyer, know that you do have some more time, generally speaking. But that being said, you also, the home that you fall in love with may be a home that somebody else falls in love with too. So just because things are moving a little bit slower doesn't mean necessarily wait, right? The question we talk to our clients about is, hey, we're not going to push you into any home. That's not how we work. But if there's a home that you tell us that you really like, we're going to ask you questions to get you thinking like, okay, would you be sad if this home was gone tomorrow? Or maybe, if you didn't make an offer on this home and somebody else got it, would you be comparing this home to every other home that we look at? That's generally a sign that maybe we should consider making an offer. So if you've got questions on what all this means for you, if you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, any real estate questions, or just curious on what the market is happening, what the market's looking like in your area, feel free to reach out. We are always here to assist. Hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you next week. Bye!